Hi, and welcome to another episode of Alicia Makes Toys. In the last episode, we made a Ditto May. And for today's episode, have you ever wondered what would happen if you took Satsuki from My Neighbor Totoro and had a Ditto transform into her to make a Ditto Satsuki? Well, let's get started. First, I print out a reference photo of my Ditto Satsuki concept art so I know roughly the size to make the figurine. And then I take some aluminum foil and ball it up until it's a little bit smaller than the size of her head. And I do the same thing for her body. Nice. I then cover each aluminum foil ball with some super sculpey clay in beige. I attach the head and the body together using some sculpey bacon bond and a toothpick. And poke some holes in the back so you don't get weird sculpey pimples when you bake. And bake. After I bake the clay, I cover the head with some more super sculpey and beige until it's roughly the shape I want the head to be. And I baked it again. And I wet sanded the head so it's nice and smooth. I cover the figurine again with some more clay so it's easier to attach the facial features later. Also, there are some small holes from the sanding that I wanted to cover up. I found that my process is a little bit easier and more efficient if I can use some colored clay in my process. So I use some yellow Primo Sculpey clay to form her body, so that I don't need to recolor her shirt. And I just add some extra clay at the bottom so I can start forming her dress as well. It's hard to use colored clay for everything because it does add some thickness when you add different colors clay. I need to worry about mixing. So sometimes I just use the most basic color, which would be yellow here, that I might paint orange afterwards to make her dress. To make the collar of her shirt, I cut out 2 small rectangles. I shaped the collar using a small razor blade. And roughly attach it. Once I like the placement, I use my silicone tool to blend it in a little bit. And I take a small ball of clay to make the button. For her ears, I take more of that skin tone Sculpey, I roll it out in my pasta roller on one, and I use some cling wrap so that I can then use a small round cookie cutter to cut out her ears. I do that so it's a little bit cleaner when I do the cut, and it also comes out a lot rounder as well, which is nice. And I press down on one side of the ear so it's easier to attach later. And I attach the ears. Once I like the placement, I blend it in using my finger. And use a silicone tool for fine blending. For her hair, I use black Sculpey Primo clay and I roll it out on the pasta roller on the setting of 3. And then same thing, I use some cling wrap and a cookie cutter that's roughly the size I think her hair is gonna be, and I cut it out. And attach it to her head. I add little bits of clay here and there to add a little bit more to her hairline. For her bangs and any spiky part of her hair, I roll out some clay into a teardrop shape. And for some of the pieces, I flatten it a little bit and shape it as well. So I can attach it to her head. And blend in when I like the placement. The hair takes a while, but I think it's worth it because it looks pretty cool at the end. And I add a little volume on the top by just adding extra pieces of clay. For her shirt sleeves, I take a round ball of yellow Primo clay. I roll it out till it's a pill shape. And then I cut it in half. I line it up and cut it again because it's kind of hard to make them exactly equal the first time you cut it in half. I use my fingers to blend in the rough edges and then place on the sleeves. For her arms, I pretty much do the same thing except use a different Sculpey color and make the pill a little bit longer because she has longer arms here. And attach. I roughly position the arms to where I like it and use my silicone tool to press in the seam. For her eyes, I take a snake of clay, and to make them even, I actually just cut them out like this and then roll them up and place it on. And dab it down when you like the placement, and also to make sure the eyes are roughly even. I take the same snake of clay and I place it onto her face and kind of manipulate it until it's the shape I like it to be, and then I press it down. A nice tip is to use some alcohol and a Q-tip to get rid of any dust you might have left on your clay. I shaved down some peach chalk pastel, and then I place it onto her face using a small eyeshadow brush. I use a mixture of Sculpey Bacon Bond and clay softener so I can make sure all the new bits that we attach are secure. I also make sure to avoid the place that we blushed just now because it might distort what we just did. And then I bake. Her hair needed a little bit more volume, so I attached some more clay to it. And I baked it again. And I wet sanded the figurine carefully until it's nice and smooth. For her suspender skirt, I take some orange Sculpey clay and I just place it on like so. And press down to attach. And take some more clay to make the top of her skirt. And use a variety of tools to then cut off all the excess clay. And blend it in. I repeat the same process on the back. For her buttons, I take 2 small balls of reddish clay, place them on, and use a ball stylus to indent them so it's extra cute. And make sure to use some Sculpey Bacon Bond and clay softener to make sure all the new bits are attached. And bake. And gently wet sand the new parts so it's nice and smooth. Sometimes sanding can take out some of the color, so just use a wash of acrylic paint and that color so that it can bring the color back to life. I then paint on the skirt. I didn't sculpt the skirt because I didn't want to add extra thickness. And to blend it into the other things you have already, just use a little bit of the paint onto the suspenders. To make sure you have an even finish, I airbrush a mixture of Liquitex matte varnish and airbrush medium. And once it dries, you're done. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe. Bye everyone!